welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a fascinating story coming out of Oman about rethinking early childhood education with a unique blend of technology and psychology.
It's a really compelling project looking at how very young children, we're talking preschoolers, can engage with concepts like logic and coding.
Exactly. But before we jump into the project itself, let's introduce the key players whose combined expertise made this possible, as described in our sources. First, there's Dr. Fatemeh Khozaei. She's identified as the lead expert focusing on developmental psychology and educational design.
Right, and her background is quite interesting, a PhD in architecture, but specifically researching learning environments and child development. She's worked across the Middle East and Europe, now based in Oman, really focusing on that intersection of physical design, emotion, and how kids learn.
Her perspective on the space of learning seems crucial here. Then we have Dr. Saba, the education specialist.
Yes, described as a senior academic and educational leader with deep experience in early childhood curriculum, teaching methods, teacher training, all that essential groundwork.
And she's highlighted as a champion for play-based, inquiry-driven learning. Really passionate about integrating tech in a way that's actually appropriate and, engaging for preschoolers. Her focus was clearly on the activities themselves.
Which is vital. You can have the tech, but if the activity isn't right for a 4-year-old, it just won't land.
Absolutely. And rounding out this core team is Dr. Qamar, the technical expert. He brings the artificial intelligence, robotics, and STEM education side.
He's based at Dhofar University, an AI and robotics expert there. Decades of research in things like computer vision, AI-driven robotics. But crucially, his focus here was on making robotics and coding intelligent, but also really intuitive for young children.
Taking the complex stuff and simplifying it, making it accessible.
Precisely. So you have this blend. Dr. Khozaei understanding the child's mind and environment, Dr. Assi knowing how to teach preschoolers effectively through play, and Dr. Islam making the technology itself work seamlessly and simply for them.
It's that combination the sources really point to as the foundation for this whole initiative. The ABC Robotics Project, or Tiny Coders, Big Impact. Their goal was ambitious, shaping a new model for preschool STEM, using play, empathy, and smart design, starting in Oman, but with bigger ideas.
That focus on empathy alongside the tech is definitely noteworthy.
Okay, so let's dive into the specifics. Picture this. You walk into a preschool classroom in Salalah, Oman. It's buzzing, energetic, but maybe not with what you'd expect.
Yeah, instead of just the usual blocks or paints, you see these 4-year-olds really focused, placing colorful tiles on a mat.
And watching a little robot move based on the sequence they just built.
Yeah.
And they're cheering. It's not some tech hub, it's Oman.
It really grabs you, doesn't it? How did this small pilot, using screen-free coding blocks, mixing in child psychology principles, and even thinking about the room design, how did that get the attention of the National Education Ministry?
That's the core of it. The sources suggest it's exactly that convergence blending field that often stays separate. AI and robotics on one side, early childhood development on the other.
Showing how powerful they are together when you focus on the child.
Right. So this project, Tiny Coders, Big Impact, the ABC Robotics Project, it's all about introducing logic, basic coding concepts to preschoolers in a way that just feels like fun.
And our sources stress this wasn't tech for tech's sake. The team knew they had to understand the child's mind first. That was paramount.
So let's get into that Salalah pilot. The sources are specific. May 25th, 2025, at a preschool there.
And the tool they used was the Matatalab STEM 4 Plus kit, the big emphasis. Totally screen-free, no tablets, no computers for the kids' interaction.
Which feels pretty key for the target audience, right? 4 to 5-year-olds.
Absolutely. And the goal sounds simple, but it's actually quite fundamental. Introduce sequencing and logic.
How do they do it? Through stories, colors, tangible blocks. The sources give this great example. The session theme was help the robot get to the picnic.
Nice. And the kids worked in pairs.
Yeah, pairs. Good for collaboration, right? They had these physical arrow tiles forward, left, right, and they placed them in order on this mat to program the robot.
So they're physically manipulating the code. They see the robot follow their instructions or not follow them if the sequence is wrong. Direct cause and effect.
It's basically hands-on coding. Breaking down a goal, get to the picnic spot into ordered steps. That is computational thinking just disguised as a game.
And the observations they made during this pilot, really telling. They tracked things like time on task, frustration tolerance.
Success rates, peer collaboration, all that. And here's a key finding. Over 75% of the kids stayed actively engaged for more than 20 minutes.
Wow.
The sources flagged this as a really high benchmark for 4- and 5-year-olds.
That engagement figure is huge. Preschoolers usually flip between things much faster. Staying focused that long means it wasn't just new and shiny for 2 minutes, it was genuinely captivating. The design was clearly hitting the mark, intrinsically motivating.
And a big piece of that puzzle, according to the sources, was the design of the physical space. It wasn't just random mats on the floor.
Right, this is where Dr. Khozai's expertise really seems to come in. They arranged the mats with specific color-coded zones, a forest zone, a market zone, a park.
And the purpose wasn't just decoration. It was about creating spatial memory, adding emotional context. The robot wasn't just moving on a grid, it was going on a little journey through a world the kids could understand.
Made it more meaningful than just point A to point B. And there's that lovely anecdote the sources share.
Oh yeah, about the child who just decided, my robot wants ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then changed the sequence, figured out how to reroute the robot to the market zone instead of the picnic spot. The source notes how that moment of child-led imagination meeting the task made all the difference.
It says so much, doesn't it? About giving kids agency, letting their creativity connect with the learning. And the tech itself helped foster that connection too.
Yeah, Dr. Qamar's input here integrating simple audio feedback. So when the robot successfully completed the child's path, it would play a positive sound, like yay, or clapping.
And the effect of that little sound? Dramatic. The sources say it massively increased the kids' willingness to try again if they made a mistake.
Instead of getting frustrated if the robot went off course, they'd troubleshoot, move the tiles around, try again.
Yeah. And they were cheering for the robot and cheering for each other when someone got it right.
It turns potential failure into just another step, building that resilience, that growth mindset, even so young. That positive loop is incredibly effective.
And it wasn't just the kids. The feedback from teachers and parents, also incredibly positive.
The teachers noticed real changes. One is quoted saying something quite striking. "This is the first time I saw the quietest child in my class lead a group."
Wow, that's significant. Seeing leadership skills emerge through this activity.
Another teacher mentioned kids using directional words left, right, forward more confidently just in everyday classroom chat outside the robot activity.
That shows it wasn't just isolated learning. It was impacting their social skills, their confidence, even language. A real ripple effect.
Definitely. And the parents.
Totally on board. Asking how they could replicate it at home, how they could get this for their kids, they saw the value immediately.
And the sources say that parental reaction was kind of a light bulb moment for the team. It showed this wasn't just a neat classroom activity, it had potential as a scalable model.
So that leads to the next big question. How does a spark in one Salalah classroom catch the eye of the government?
Well, things moved pretty quickly. The sources say just a few weeks after that pilot, an official letter arrived.
Not just any letter. This came from the Directorate General of Education for the Dhofar Governorate, which falls under the Ministry of Education for Oman.
Okay, so that's high-level recognition. And the letter formally acknowledged the success they'd seen in the pilot.
But it was more than just a pat on the back. It was an invitation. An invitation for the team to lead a broader program focused on AI capacity building for young learners across that region.
A major step up. And the sources specify Dr. Fatemeh Khozaei and Dr. Qamar ul-Islam were named academic leads for this new national initiative.
And here's what the sources really emphasize. The letter specifically called out their interdisciplinary approach. That unique mix of developmental psychology, robotics expertise, and educational space design that was seen as the key to their success and why they were chosen.
That's fantastic validation. It confirms their belief that bridging these different fields, always centering the child's experience, is where the real innovation happens. It fundamentally shifted the scale of their work.
It's a brilliant case study, really. A well-designed, carefully observed, small experiment leading directly to potential policy impact.
So what's next? What's the plan for scaling this up, according to the sources?
They've got a clear roadmap. First step, expand the pilot. They're rolling it out to 3 more schools in the Dhofar region.
To gather more data, refine things presumably?
Exactly. And they're committed to more testing, trying different formats like, does individual play work differently than group play? Testing bilingual story prompts, maybe different kinds of emotional feedback, constant iteration.
Makes sense. And supporting teachers must be key too.
Absolutely. A big piece is developing a toolkit for educators. Things like adaptable story cards, guides for setting up those color-coded zones effectively, tips on using movement and hands-on stuff to scaffold logical thinking.
That toolkit is vital for making it sustainable and scalable beyond the original team, empowering other teachers.
And longer-term tech ideas. The sources mentioned they're exploring possibilities like integrating some subtle vision-based AI. Maybe the robot could react to touch or voice, making it even more interactive.
But still keeping the core interaction simple, I imagine.
Yes, maintaining that intuitive feel.
Yeah.
So you see the progression, proof of concept, wider testing, creating resources, and then gently exploring next-gen tech integration.
It's systematic and the ultimate goal.
The big dream, described in the sources, is a national early robotics curriculum for Oman, but designed to be adaptable, maybe even serve as a model for other countries in the Arab world.
Wow, that's thinking big. All starting from those kids and their coding blocks, building that foundation for tech literacy right from the start.
So let's synthesize a bit. What are the core philosophies, the big takeaways from this whole project, based on the reflections in our sources?
Well, one key point, echoing Dr. Fatemeh's perspective, is about what kids really need. It's not necessarily the fanciest, highest-end tech. It's more about emotionally intelligent design.
Right. Environments that speak their language, the language of play and discovery, tools that make learning feel like exploration, not work.
It pushes back against just throwing screens at early education, doesn't it? It puts the focus squarely on the pedagogy, the design, the understanding of the child.
Yeah. And Dr. Saba's view reinforces that. Education needs to evolve to match kids' curiosity. This project showed that even complex ideas like logic are within reach for 4-year-olds if the approach empowers them, lets them lead.
Trusting their capacity, giving them that agency through play, seems fundamental to why it clicked.
And finally, Dr. Qamar's point about the future relationship with technology.
Yes, raising kids who are inspired by AI and robotics, not intimidated. Introducing these ideas playfully, positively, right from the start, shapes their perspective. They see tech as a creative tool, something that can understand and shape, not just a mysterious black box.
It moves them from potential consumers or, people may be apprehensive about AI towards being active creators and problem solvers.
Yeah, it really makes you think about priorities in education, doesn't it? At all levels, maybe.
For sure. So you trace the journey, a small screen-free pilot in Salalah, powered by this unique blend of expertise, psychology, education, robotics gaining government recognition, now planning for national scale. The ABC Robotics Project really does offer a compelling blueprint.
It certainly challenges assumptions about what young kids are capable of and how we can weave complex subjects into foundational learning effectively.
And it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If this kind of low-tech, high-engagement, thoughtfully designed approach rooted in play and emotional connection can unlock abstract thinking in 4-year-olds, boosting confidence in language too, what does that suggest about how we could rethink teaching complex ideas to students of all ages?
What becomes possible if we prioritize that playful exploration, that careful environmental design, that emotional engagement, perhaps even before we reach for the most advanced tech tool?
A question definitely worth considering as we think about the future of learning.